We've great. So yes, let's begin with the Luxury Lodges of Australia masterclass. For everyone watching today, just give you a bit of a run through what's going to happen. This is Penny Rafferty, the Executive Officer for the Luxury Lodges of Australia. I'm going to be asking her a few kind of introductory questions about this collection of high-end lodges and camps across Australia. And then she'll be giving a 20-minute presentation on the collection, telling you all the information that you need to sell these luxury lodges. And then for 10 minutes at the end, we'll be doing a live Q&A. Well, it's all live, but we will be taking questions from the audience. So if you have any questions throughout, pop them in the chat and we will come to them at the end of the PowerPoint presentation. Of course, you also have the competition questions in the polls tab here. So again, listen carefully and answer those for the chance to win the 2-week holiday with gold medal. So Penny, I'm going to come to you just with a couple of introductory questions. How many properties are in the Luxury Lodges of Australia collection?
There are 19 lodges.
19.
17 of them are operational at the moment. Silky Oaks Lodge reopens after a massive rebuild on the 1st of October in the Daintree. And Southern Ocean Lodge, which most of you would know we lost in the fires last year, they're undergoing planning and it will be rebuilt with an open date of, we think, late 22, early 23.
Okay, great. And what is it about these lodges that makes them so special? I mean, what are the unique selling points of the collection as a whole?
Oh, if you remember nothing else from the next half an hour, just remember that they are more than just a place to stay. To be a luxury lodge of Australia, the lodge has to go more than just being a beautiful room, all the soft luxuries. They must proactively deliver an experience of place.
Okay, great. And what kind of information are you going to be sharing in your presentation today? What's coming up in your 20-minute PowerPoint?
Well, I think the usefulness of Luxury Lodges of Australia as a resource, as a central resource for 19 very different independently owned and operated properties that are arguably best of the best, and shortcuts, things that will make it easy for travel planners to plan and for travel media to promote and for people to plan, promote and sell Australia, the best of Australian travel.
Okay, great. So would you like to go ahead? Yeah, should we get started?
Yeah, why not? I've got a little red line through my start sharing button. You might need to allow me to share.
I think if you click that, it should work, and then you can choose between PDF or screen.
Thank you. You are right. Technology is fabulous. There we go. I think we all know how to. Now, are you actually seeing my?
We're seeing your whole screen there. Oh, yeah, there's your presentation.
Fabulous. I think we can all graduate from this with a PhD in pretty much every online platform there is. Thank you, everyone, for giving up your time to learn a little bit more about Australia. I know I think I'm the last one of the Signature Experience collectives that you are hearing from in this series. So I'll try and bring it home with some inspiration for you. Luxury Lodges of Australia was the first of the Signature Experience collectives. In fact, we formed in late 2009, and it was because so many lodges like the one you see in front of you had been recently built, and perceptions of Australia were still quite mainstream. People didn't relate to Australia having safari-style, luxury lodge-style accommodation. So we formed as a collective in late 2009, and it was really to help showcase what had happened in Australia, how Australia had come of age. Just wanted to acknowledge, clearly for everyone globally, it has not been a straight road ahead. And so acknowledging a lot of the challenges that we still find when planning travel, really, I just would love you to remember to bookmark some of these tools and resources. And what I'm also going to try and do is just give you some of the stories that will give you longevity of storytelling for your clients. We know that people have Australia very high on their bucket list, largely because of our size, our small population, and our natural isolation. If safety and security are going to be really high on their radar when they can travel again. We were high on the radar anyway because of our beautiful natural environments, our nature and wildlife, our food and drink scene, our Indigenous culture. But what I really hope that you will take from this is that the collectives between them and Luxury Lodges of Australia has so much depth of storytelling that really can keep your clients engaged until such time as you can start booking again. We'll start with a bit of myth busting. It's not just one trip. So you really can be, and a lot of Australians have been finding that out in this last 12 months. People forget that Australia is twice the size of continental Europe. We're same size approximately as the USA. I think we're 82% the size of China. You don't send people to China or the US or to Europe for a 2-week holiday and expect them to cover everything. So it's more than just one trip. And our beautiful natural isolation with barely 26 million people is pretty phenomenal. Again, another one of those things that I really just want you to take away is you don't need to memorize everything. We have all the tools for you. But if you just get a sense of the depth, diversity, and quality of both location and experience that you could have across the lodges, I'll feel like I've done my job. 19 lodges, as I mentioned before. Southern Ocean Lodge currently closed for rebuild. Silky Oaks Lodge up there in the north in the Daintree rainforest, the oldest living rainforest on the planet, which is number 15 up there on the top of the map there, will reopen on the 1st of October after being what I call bailified. People who are familiar with the lodges will know that the founders of Southern Ocean Lodge, Capella Lodge, the people that brought new life to Longitude 131 at Uluru are now James and Hayley Bailey. So they've spent the last 12 months rebuilding Silky Oaks Lodge. I was up there in March, still a building site, but going to be phenomenal. But the lodges really, they're spread across every corner of Australia. They are all in regions of Australia that have a compelling reason to go there to do something. None of them are city hotels. None of them are flop and drop resorts. They are all between 4 and 40 rooms or suites. The only exception is Qualia on Hamilton Island, which has 60. So what defines a lodge? Because they're more than just a place to stay. They're not just a resort. Independently owned and operated, they are all different, but what they have in common is location, 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 regionally based with a really distinct sense of place. That is why you go there. All the soft luxuries that your high-end clients would expect are delivered at the highest level. Eat well, drink well, sleep well, but it reflects the region that they're in. It's not about having the same brands of wines and amazing spirits at every single one. It is actually about how all of those soft luxuries help to reflect the local region that they're in. I've mentioned those words, naturally isolated. I know it is what people are really kind of seeking. It was always part of our DNA, whether it's the Longitude at Uluru, and you can see there it's the only camp that is within sight of Uluru, Ayers Rock. Salsalis at Ningaloo Reef, and I noticed you were talking to Deb and John earlier about the whale shark swims. This is a camp. It's the luxe base camp to stay when you're going to do that. It's located in the national park, and you literally can walk from your tent onto the beach and drift snorkel along Ningaloo Reef. Spices Peak Lodge in the scenic rim, and one of the best kept secrets up in the far northern part of the Great Dividing Range in southern Queensland. Sapphire Freycinet in Tasmania. So a little bit of that sense of diversity of place and style. You go there because there is a compelling reason to do something or experience something that is uniquely Australian there. So whether it is the desert, the rainforest, the reef, the winelands, the outback, you go there because there's that unique Australian experience. But what brings it to life is the guides, the expert knowledge and craft that the people of the place deliver. You never have anyone come back from a trip raving about the thread count of the sheets as their first comment. They always come back and go, oh, you know what? I met the most amazing person who told me about blah, blah. It's always the people that bring it to life. When we talk about luxury in Australia, it's really important to also understand how to talk about that to your clients. We talk about our luxury being very much related to that exclusivity of access or privilege of place. And it is about only sharing those extraordinary places and experiences with just a handful of other guests, if any at all. And those expert hosts and guides that impart to you the stories, the detail. They make sense of the small things in grand, extraordinary landscapes. And they are the people that really bring this to life and add that element of luxury. There's a huge amount of talk globally about people wanting to travel better and a rise of the veritable flood of sustainability awareness. We know that people intend to travel well, but we also know that sometimes they need a little bit of your help to really explain to them what is the travel well, what is the travel impact, what is the impact of their dollar. A way of measuring this for us was looking at the lodges, 19 lodges. Between them, they deliver over 250 individual experiences, which is why people travel. But the impact on the regions that they operate in, they partner with 1,600 other tourism-based businesses that help bring those experiences to life. And they're visible to guests, so they're tourism businesses. It's not the laundromat or the mechanic or the electrician. It's businesses that are actually part of that really rich experience that the lodges offer. So there's an incredible economic impact. I call it economic nutrition into regional Australia when a guest comes to stay at a luxury lodge. The styles of that impact vary from culture and really celebrating either our Indigenous culture or the culture of communities like the Barossa, which has its roots in Silesia, oldest living food culture in Australia. The other ways that is expressed is obviously through conservation and regeneration projects and activities that are really highly engaging. That's part of the appeal to go somewhere like Emirates' one and only Walgam Valley. And it's not just about planting trees. You're talking to the guides, you're learning about a place that was really deeply impacted by the bushfires, but had conservation at its core 12 years ago when it opened. It was about restoring a landscape to its beautiful, pristine state. Luxury Lodges of Australia, just bookmark the website. It's rich in content. There's an image library, a video library. Both of them are free for download as long as you just agree to use the assets in conjunction with promoting the lodges that they represent. Those 250 experiences, they feed a database of those feeds the website. So you know what your guests are looking for. You know the kind of experience they want. You can search by experience, and there are some really clever filters that drive the website. You can search by experience, but you can also search those experiences by the time of year that guests travel. So the seasonality. I think, again, Deb referenced the seasons for swimming with whale sharks and humpback whales. That's filterable on the website if you're looking at Salsalas. There's also an availability calendar. At the moment, it is a short-term window of opportunity availability calendar for short-term travel, but we are building a long-term availability. And it won't have particular room types. It will literally have a list of 19 lodges. And if you know the dates that your clients are traveling, you can scan and you'll know where there is availability. And then there's a direct link to each lodge, or go via your trusted DMC ITO. There are about 30 odd itinerary suggestions there at the moment. We are refreshing those and building some more, taking into account the fact that there is also, we're getting a lot of feedback that there's a trend for slightly slower travel. And so we're doing deeper dive itineraries that don't go to quite as many places, but supply a much richer experience over several days in just 2 or 3 places instead. There's an accommodation summary, all the nitty gritty that you need to know, particularly when there's family travel. Are there split kings? Are there single beds? Can you do rollaways? What are the child policies? All of that nitty gritty is consolidated into one place on the Luxury Lodges of Australia website. a great way for you to keep in touch with your clients and give you hooks to go back to people who have said, I really want to go to the Great Barrier Reef, but there's no point planning it right now because we can't go. This new news page will give you lots of current and forward-looking events, happenings, news, so that you do have hooks to go back to clients who you know really want to come. So that do keep that as a handy bookmark. All of this news is also reflected in our social media channels. So if you are a social media person who prefers to keep in touch with the news that way, make sure you follow Luxury Lodges of Australia. The availability calendar that I mentioned. There is also for those deeper stories and for the clients that are saying, you know what, we are taking sustainability a bit more seriously now. We have a story sheet around the business with purpose for each of the lodges. Yes, there are the mandatories like reducing single-use plastics and energy use and waste and energy consumption, those sorts of things. But really what these fact sheets do is bring to life some of the legacy stories that the lodges have as part of their story. One of the really outstanding ones and beautiful ones at the moment is Longitude 131 at Uluru. They have a relationship with the Ernabella Arts Community, which is an Indigenous art community way out in the middle of the desert. Through that partnership, guests have access to one of these incredibly evocative and powerful art communities. There's an artist in residence program, but also through the sale of art at Longitude, this community is really, really kept very thriving and alive because of the funding that comes through the sale of their artwork. So it's really self-empowering for this community. The other legacy story that's really easy to talk to is Arkaba in the Flinders Ranges, 60,000 acres of private wildlife conservancy. When Charlie Carlo bought the property, he destocked it. He's got guides in their team that are helping to get rid of feral animals. And that wildlife conservation work is part of, if guests want to, part of a guest experience. Our Indigenous Connections, it's part of the Australian story, and I'm sure you heard from Nicole Mitchell earlier in the week. Every itinerary to Australia really should be flavoured with an Indigenous experience. And many of the lodges have a very proactive connection with the local people. Some of them it's less proactive, but again, there's a rich selection of stories and intelligence about those connections on our website under the Aboriginal Australia section. The experience filters that I talked about, for instance, if you're searching for Aboriginal Australia, you click on that and up will come all of the different experiences that are in that mould. And it's really diverse. It's not just about dots, dancing and didgeridoos. It is about hikes. It's about genuine connection to country. It's about learning about bush culture, bush art, the care of the land. It's a fundamental to care for the land for our First Nations people. On 2 feet is another one. Walking, hiking has gone gangbusters in this last year. So samples, well-being and wellness and well-being. The other trend that we've noticed is people wanting to take their well-being practice with them. It's not just about spas and flop and drop. They want to be able to do their yoga, that awareness of connection with nature being a very powerful wellness part of travel. So, if you have clients, you're wanting to sell Australia, really what we are trying to do is answer those questions. Why would I go there? What will I do there? What's the best time of year? And so these tools and resources on the website are there to help you do that. When is the best time to go? Go back to that map. We are so big. Many people think, wintertime, not the best time to go. In fact, the entire north of the country, that is the best time to go, to the top end, to Kakadu, to the Kimberley, to far north Queensland. But the scale of Australia means that any time of the year is the best time to go. That database of experiences I was talking about, you can go to the what to do when page, click on a season. We've got temperatures in degrees and Celsius. We've got the months correlating with the seasons. Some people just don't get it when it's upside down. And you can click on a lodge and sort by the season that your clients are able to travel, and up will come the experiences that they can expect to have at that time of year. Those itineraries that I mentioned, downloadable PDFs, they're very easy to use. Keep an eye on it. We currently do some work to refresh those and build some new ones. And then if you want deep dive training over a period, I think it's about a 45-minute video going into detail with every single lodge, which I can't do in 20 minutes. There's a training video on Vimeo, but there is also the our module on the Aussie Specialist Program on the Tourism Australia Aussie Specialist Program site. Each of the collectives, I'm sure, has mentioned this, but you can actually go through every collective to do that. There's also a luxury module, which really correlates well with the Luxury Lodges of Australia one, to help fill in other parts of the itineraries that you may develop for high-end, high-yielding clients. So stay connected, follow us on social. There are some stunning videos. One of the best compliments I ever had was from my mother, who just sat on the website all day one day watching videos and said, I feel so relaxed now. Anyway, I didn't. It was a lot of work getting them there, but I'm glad she appreciated them, and I really hope you do too. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Penny.
Really is that 20 minutes, Maddie? Are you proud of me?
Yes, very good. Kept the time. Wonderful. We have had a couple of questions come in already, but if anyone that hasn't asked questions yet, of course, you can put them in the chat, and we will get to them now. Polly has said she stayed at Southern Ocean Lodge 18 months ago, and it was a wonderful experience. She's so pleased that it is being rebuilt, but when is it expected to be ready for guests again?
The date is not official yet. Obviously, with bushfires, getting through insurance and planning and all that stuff was delayed, and then it was delayed again by COVID. So I know that James and Hayley are focusing on getting Silky Oaks Lodge open. The plan is to start rebuilding Southern Ocean Lodge next year, with it hopefully, and everything is subject to confirmation, end of 22 or early 23.
Okay, great.
But it is phenomenal.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Sarah has asked, do most of the lodges include the activities and food in the price?
The majority of them do. So there are 3 loose categories. You've got the lodges like Southern Ocean Lodge, Qualia, Walgan Valley, Lizard Island. The more remote lodges are all inclusive because there's nowhere else to go. And take Qualia out of that because it's on Hamilton Island. They do have an all-inclusive rate, which includes meals, beverages, experiences. Up to a point, there are some extra experiences for all of them, like helicopter trips and highly motorized ones. The lodges that don't have an all-inclusive rate do have an all-inclusive package, but they allow flexibility for guests. For instance, if they're staying at the Louise in the Barossa Valley, those guests are going to want to dine at different places. They're going to want to go to different wineries. They're going to want to do different things. So the teams at the lodge help tailor that for them, but it's not necessarily included unless they book the fully inclusive rate.
Okay, great. And are you able to give some kind of indication as to what price range guests would be looking at for a stay?
Yes. So the rule of thumb, very loose, gross generalization for all-inclusive. So even at the lodges that aren't all-inclusive, by the time you add in touring, meals, all that kind of thing, you're looking at around 1,000 Australian dollars per person per night on average, but it ranges from about 800 Aussie dollars per person per night through to upwards, depending on the suite. So it could end up being, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per person per night, depending on what the inclusions are.
Okay, great, thank you.
The average is about 1,000.
Wonderful. Brooke has asked a question that I'm sure is very difficult to answer. What is your favourite lodge? Are you able to pick one?
Oh, Brooke, if you had children, what would your answer be? In fact, I made a mistake saying that to someone once, and they said, "Yeah, I've definitely got a favourite." I do you know what? Because I have been so incredibly privileged to visit all of them, many of them multiple times over the last 11 years. I've had extraordinary moments at all of them. And it's always to do with what I call that aha moment or moment of arrival. You know, when it's not just walking in the door, but that moment when you know that you've absolutely arrived and connected with place. And I've had that moment at every single one of them. So sorry, Brooke, I'm not going to choose.
Fair enough. And I was just wondering what the food is like at the luxury lodges. Are there any that are particularly well suited to people who are really big on their cuisine and massive foodies? And what kind of food could they expect?
Listen, food superb at all the lodges. The three that are dining destinations because of where they are, they're in foodie, winey regions, and they really have kind of the lead restaurant in each of those destinations, are Lake House at Daylesford. Phenomenal. You know, it's been going for 35 years and it is still hot. It's their innovation, their creativity is just phenomenal. The Louise in the Barossa Valley wine region, and the and Cake Lodge in Margaret River. Having said that, I have had phenomenal feedback from guests in recent months on Sapphire, Longitude 131. I was at Spices Peak Lodge recently. Wow. So all of them. But the ones that really immerse guests in a deeper food and beverage, not just wine, experience are the ones that are close to those wine or in those wine and food regions. So Lake House, the Louise, and Cape Lodge.
Great. Can you see Brooke's comment there? She said she's only 19, so she's wondering which one would be best for her to visit as a young person.
As a young person, I'm not ageist. Brooke, what I would do, if I was your travel advisor, the first thing I would say to you is, what do you enjoy doing? What surprised you and delighted you most on your last holiday? And try to match you not with something that is defined as being a young person's lodge, but to match you with something that's really going to capture your heart and imagination. So if you are active, if you want to go and swim with the whale sharks, you know where to go, Salsalis. If you are someone who really loves a more sophisticated, design-oriented kind of place, Qualia, Sapphire, it really does depend not on your age, but on what are your preferences? What do you like to do?
Great. Thanks very much, Penny. We are just about to run out of time. So thank you to everyone who has submitted questions, and thank you, Penny, for sharing your insight. I'm sure everyone here has really appreciated it.
Thank you for having me. And listen, everyone, look after yourselves, and we really are thinking of you and look forward to seeing you and your clients in Australia as soon as we can. But take care. You've had a tough winter, acknowledging that.
Great. Thanks, Penny.